Two little girls save a millionaire CEO. The rain hammered against the cracked pavement as 7-year-old Maya tugged her younger sister Lily's hand, their worn sneakers splashing through puddles that reflected the dim streetlights. They were rushing home from the corner store where they'd spent their last $2 on bread when they saw him. A man in an expensive suit collapsed behind a dumpster, blood trickling from his forehead, unconscious and alone. What happened next would change 3 lives forever, proving that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness create the biggest miracles. If this story touches your heart, please hit that like button, share it with someone who needs hope today, comment below with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to Trillionaire in Love for more inspiring stories that will restore your faith in humanity. Maya's first instinct was to keep walking. Their grandmother had always warned them about strangers, especially in their rough neighborhood where danger lurked in every shadow. But something about the way the rain was washing the blood from the man's pale face made her stop. He looked so helpless, so vulnerable, nothing like the scary strangers Grandma had described. "Maya, we need to go," whispered Lily, her voice trembling as she clutched their bag of bread tighter. At just 5 years old, she understood enough about their world to know that getting involved with unconscious strangers could mean trouble, but Maya couldn't leave him there. She knelt beside the man, her small hand touching his wrist the way she'd seen nurses do on TV. His pulse was weak but steady. Sir, can you hear me?" she called out, but he remained motionless. His breathing was shallow, and she could see a nasty gash on his forehead where he'd apparently hit something during his fall. The girls faced their first challenge. They had no phone to call for help. Their grandmother's old flip phone had been disconnected months ago when money ran out, and they were too young to know any emergency numbers by heart. The nearest hospital was miles away, and they had no way to get this stranger there safely. "We can't carry him," Lily stated the obvious, her lips blue from the cold rain, "and we can't leave him here. What if he dies?" Maya looked around desperately. Their apartment building was just 2 blocks away. It wasn't much, a run-down place with peeling paint and broken windows. But it had shelter, warmth, and their grandmother would know what to do. The problem was getting him there. That's when Maya noticed the old shopping cart someone had abandoned near the dumpster. It was rusty, and one wheel squeaked terribly, but it was big enough, "Help me," she told Lily, and together the 2 little girls managed to lift half, drag the unconscious man into the cart. It took them 20 minutes and all their combined strength, but they did it. The journey to their apartment was their second major challenge. The man was heavy, the cart kept wanting to tip over, and people stared at them strangely as they navigated through the streets. Some laughed at the sight of 2 small girls pushing a shopping cart with an unconscious businessman inside. Others crossed the street to avoid them entirely. No one offered to help. "My arms hurt," Lily whimpered as they struggled up a small hill, the cart's broken wheel catching on every crack in the sidewalk. "We're almost there," Maya encouraged, though her own muscles screamed in protest. "We can't give up now. He needs us." When they finally reached their building, they faced challenge number 3, getting him up 2 flights of stairs. The elevator had been broken for as long as they could remember, and there was no way the cart would fit in the narrow stairwell, even if it worked. Maya made a decision that showed wisdom beyond her years. She ran upstairs alone, leaving Lily to watch over the stranger, and burst through their apartment door. Grandma, we need help." Their grandmother, Rosa, was a small woman with calloused hands and a back bent from years of cleaning office buildings at night. When Maya explained what had happened, Rosa's first reaction was fear. Fear for her granddaughter's safety, fear of getting involved with something that might bring trouble to their door. But when she saw the girls' faces, wet from rain and bright with determination, she understood that this was about more than helping a stranger. This was about the kind of people her granddaughters were becoming, and she wasn't about to let fear stop them from doing what was right. Together, the 3 of them managed to get the unconscious man up the stairs and into their tiny living room. Rosa cleaned his wounds with the first aid kit she kept for the girl's scraped knees and bumped elbows. She checked his pulse, his breathing, his pupils, drawing on knowledge she'd gained from years of raising children and grandchildren. He needs a doctor, she concluded, but he's stable for now. His wallet says his name is David Chen. The man's expensive suit, his gold watch, and his leather wallet full of credit cards told them he wasn't from their neighborhood. Maya found a business card in his jacket pocket that identified him as the CEO of Chen Industries, but the 7-year-old couldn't read the big words and didn't understand what CEO meant. All night, they took turns watching over him. Maya held a cool washcloth to his forehead, while Rosa tried to contact emergency services from a neighbor's phone. Lily sat quietly beside him, patting his hand and whispering, "It's okay, Mr. David. You're safe now." David Chen slowly regained consciousness just as the sun was rising. His first sight was of two little girls sitting beside him, one with worried brown eyes dabbing his forehead with a cloth, the other holding his hand with the serious concentration only a child can manage. Where am I?" he whispered, his voice hoarse and confused. "You're safe," Maya said simply. "We found you hurt, so we brought you home." As David's vision cleared and his mind sharpened, he began to understand what had happened. These two children, living in obvious poverty in a rundown apartment, had saved his life. They had risked their own safety to help a complete stranger, expecting nothing in return. He learned that he'd been mugged while walking to his car after a late business meeting downtown. The attackers had taken his phone and left him unconscious behind the dumpster. Without Maya and Lily, he might have died from exposure or his head injury, but the story was far from over. As David recovered over the next few days, staying in their apartment because Rosa insisted he wasn't well enough to leave, he learned about the girls' lives. Their parents had died in a car accident 2 years earlier, leaving them with Rosa, who worked 3 jobs just to keep food on the table and a roof over their heads. Maya dreamed of becoming a doctor so she could help people the way she'd helped him. Lily wanted to be a teacher because she loved reading, even though they only owned 2 children's books. Both girls were brilliant, curious, and kind beyond measure, but their future seemed limited by their circumstances. Rosa never complained, but David could see the weight of responsibility wearing her down. The rent was always a struggle. The girls needed clothes and school supplies, and there was never enough money for extras like books or activities that other children took for granted. David faced his own challenge now: how to help this family without insulting their pride or making them feel like charity cases. Rosa was fiercely independent and had initially refused his offers of money or gifts. "We don't need your pity," she'd said firmly. "We helped you because it was right, not because we wanted something in return." But David was a successful businessman because he knew how to solve problems creatively. Instead of offering charity, he offered opportunity. "Rosa, I'd like to hire you as the head of custodial services at my company," he said one morning over breakfast. "It pays 3 times what you're making now, includes full health benefits for your family, and comes with a housing allowance. You'd be managing a team of people, not just cleaning, though there's nothing wrong with the honest work you've been doing." Rosa stared at him suspiciously. "Why would you do that?" "Because you're exactly the kind of person I want working for my company. Someone with integrity, someone who raises children like Maya and Lily, someone who makes hard decisions and follows through. Your work ethic is obvious, and you've proven you can handle responsibility under pressure." For Maya and Lily, he had a different kind of opportunity. "I'd like to set up education funds for both girls," he explained. "Full scholarships through college, plus money for books, supplies, activities, whatever they need to reach their potential." "We can't accept that," Rosa protested. "It's too much. It's not enough," David replied quietly. "These girls saved my life, not just by finding me and getting me help, but by reminding me what really matters. I've spent years building my company and making money, but I'd forgotten about making a difference in people's lives." The challenges weren't over yet. David had to convince his board of directors that hiring Rosa was a business decision, not charity. Some questioned his judgment, wondering if his head injury had affected his thinking. But David had built his company from nothing, and his track record spoke for itself. Rosa proved them all wrong within her first month, improving efficiency in the custodial department by 30%, and earning the respect of every employee she supervised. Maya and Lily faced their own challenges, adjusting to their new opportunities. Maya threw herself into her studies with fierce determination, but struggled with feeling different from her old friends who couldn't understand her new circumstances. Lily was overwhelmed by suddenly having access to all the books she could ever want, and needed time to adjust to the idea that her dreams might actually be possible. The biggest challenge came 6 months later, when David's former business partners tried to have him declared mentally incompetent, claiming his generosity toward the family was evidence of brain damage from his injury. They wanted control of his company and saw his irrational behavior as an opportunity to seize it. The legal battle was fierce and public. Newspapers picked up the story of the millionaire CEO and the 2 little girls who saved him, but they twisted it into something ugly, suggesting David was being manipulated or that the family had somehow orchestrated the entire situation for money. Maya, now 8 years old, read one of the newspaper articles and cried for hours. "They're saying we're bad people." She sobbed to her grandmother. "They're saying we tricked Mr. David." That's when the true test of character came. David could have distanced himself from the family to protect his business reputation. Rosa could have taken her new job and stepped back from the spotlight, but none of them chose the easy path. Instead, they stood together. David fought the legal challenge with the same determination he'd used to build his company. Rosa testified about her granddaughter's character with a quiet dignity that had impressed David from the beginning. And Maya, in a moment that would be remembered for years to come, asked to speak at the hearing. Standing on a step stool so she could reach the microphone, 8-year-old Maya looked at the room full of lawyers and reporters and said, "We helped Mr. David because he needed help. That's what you're supposed to do. We didn't know he had money. We just knew he was hurt and alone. If that's wrong, then I don't understand grown-ups." Her simple words cut through all the legal complexity and reminded everyone what the story was really about: basic human kindness in a world that had grown cynical and suspicious. David won the legal battle, but more importantly, he'd found something he'd been missing his entire life: a real family. Over the following years, he became like a second father to Maya and Lily, attending their school plays and soccer games, helping with homework, and teaching them about business and life. Maya did become a doctor, specializing in emergency medicine, so she could help people in crisis the way she'd once helped a stranger behind a dumpster. Lily became not just a teacher, but a principal, dedicating her career to helping children from disadvantaged backgrounds reach their potential. Rosa never stopped working, even when she no longer needed to financially. She continued managing the custodial services at Chen Industries, but also started a nonprofit organization that trained single parents and grandparents for better paying jobs. And David, he discovered that the best return on investment isn't always measured in dollars. He restructured his entire company around the principle of corporate responsibility, creating programs for underprivileged youth, supporting single-parent families, and proving that successful businesses can also be forces for good in their communities. The story became legendary in their city, not just because of the dramatic rescue or the rags to riches elements, but because it proved that kindness is never wasted. Maya and Lily had no way of knowing that the stranger they saved would change their lives in return. They helped him simply because it was the right thing to do. Years later, when Maya was in medical school and Lily was studying education, David would often tell people that those 2 little girls had saved him twice, once from dying alone behind a dumpster, and once from living a life without purpose or real connection to others. The rain that had seemed so threatening on that fateful night had actually washed away the barriers between their different worlds, revealing the truth that generosity and compassion know no boundaries of age, wealth, or circumstance. Today, the Maya and Lily Chen Foundation, David legally adopted both girls when Rosa passed away years later, has helped thousands of children access education and opportunities they never would have had otherwise. The Foundation's motto, written in Maya's childhood handwriting, simply says, "We help because it's right." Their story reminds us that we never know how our smallest acts of kindness might change the world. Two little girls saw a stranger in need and chose compassion over caution, love over fear. They had no idea they were saving a millionaire, but it wouldn't have mattered if they had known. They would have helped anyway, because that's who they were raised to be. If this story has inspired you to believe in the power of kindness, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. Hit that like button if you believe small acts can create big changes. Leave a comment telling us about a time when kindness made a difference in your life. And subscribe to Trillionaire in Love for more stories that prove love and compassion can transform any situation. Sometimes the most ordinary people do the most extraordinary things, and sometimes helping a stranger means saving yourself. Remember, in a world where you can be anything, choose to be kind.